the hushed whispers began in the gilded sanctuaries, a ripple of shock spreading through the impeccably dressed congregations. It started, as these things often do, with a rumor, a fleeting glimpse of a tense exchange, a knowing glance exchanged between those who knew too much. But this was no ordinary marital spat. This was a tempest brewing within the very heart of a community that prided itself on its piety, its unwavering adherence to Scripture, and, perhaps most notably, its considerable wealth. We are not talking about a simple disagreement over household chores or differing opinions on the color of the new altar cloth. We are diving headfirst into a situation where the sacred vows of matrimony have been shattered, not just by the act of betrayal, but by its stark, undeniable, and profoundly consequential manifestation: a child. This child, born not of the union sanctified before God and man, but from the ashes of infidelity, has become the undeniable physical evidence of a sin that shakes the very foundations of this religious elite. The unfolding drama is a multi-million-dollar divorce, a public spectacle that pits civil law against divine doctrine and forces every individual within this sphere to confront the uncomfortable truths they have perhaps long held at bay. The stakes are astronomical, not just in terms of financial assets, fortunes amassed through years of faithful tithing and shrewd investments, but in the very integrity of their faith, their moral compass, and their understanding of forgiveness and redemption. This is the story of a high-profile couple, pillars of their religious community, whose seemingly perfect life has imploded. It's a narrative that exposes the often painful chasm between professed beliefs and lived realities, particularly when those realities involve the messy, complicated, and deeply human consequences of adultery. The legal proceedings are as intricate and expensive as one might expect when millions are on the line, a testament to the material wealth that has become intertwined with their spiritual lives. But beneath the veneer of legal jargon and financial maneuvering lies a far more profound struggle: the battle for the soul of a marriage, the interpretation of sacred texts, and the very definition of what it means to be a follower of their faith in the face of profound personal failure. The existence of this child, a living, breathing testament to the breach of covenant, complicates every aspect of the ensuing divorce. It raises excruciating questions that reverberate through the pews. How does one reconcile the commandment against adultery with the practicalities of a legal separation? What is the Church's stance when the innocent party is faced with the undeniable proof of their spouse's transgression, made all the more concrete by the arrival of a child born outside the marriage? Is forgiveness an absolute, an obligation, even when confronted with such tangible evidence of betrayal? This isn't just about a divorce. It's about the clash of earthly riches and heavenly principles, about the human capacity for both sin and, hopefully, for grace, and about the difficult, often agonizing decisions that must be made when faith, family, and fortune collide. The narrative we are about to explore is not for the faint of heart. It delves into the uncomfortable territory of hypocrisy, the sting of judgment, and the agonizing choices that can cleave a community, and indeed, a family, in two. It's an unflinching look at the behind-the-scenes machinations of a scandal that has left many questioning whether salvation itself comes with a price tag, and whether the sacred tenets they hold dear can truly withstand the corrosive forces of human frailty and earthly temptation, especially when vast fortunes are at stake. We will navigate the intricate landscape of religious doctrine, the complexities of civil law, and the raw emotional fallout that occurs when a private sin erupts into a public crisis. Prepare to witness the unraveling of a marriage, the challenges to deeply held beliefs, and the profound implications for all involved when the sacred is subjected to the harsh realities of infidelity and its undeniable consequences. This is more than just a story about a divorce. It's a case study in the human condition, played out on a stage of immense wealth and spiritual significance, forcing us all to consider the true meaning of faith, forgiveness, and the enduring power of love in the face of profound brokenness. The journey ahead is one of revelation, a stripping away of pretense to reveal the raw, often painful truths that lie beneath the surface of even the most seemingly secure and devout lives. The legal machinations surrounding this dissolution of marriage are not merely about dividing assets. They are a stark illustration of how deeply ingrained societal values, particularly within religious communities, can clash with stark realities. When a marriage involves substantial wealth, the divorce proceedings become a battleground where the principles of fairness and equity, as defined by secular law, are pitted against interpretations of divine justice and mercy. The concept of innocent spouse takes on a complex dimension here. Legally, it might pertain to who bears financial responsibility for the dissolution, or who is entitled to a larger share of marital property. Religiously, however, the innocent party is often seen through the lens of who remained faithful to their vows, regardless of the financial implications. Consider the unique burden placed upon the spouse who has upheld their commitment, only to be confronted with the undeniable evidence of their partner's betrayal. A betrayal made all the more concrete by the presence of a child. This child, though a product of infidelity, is also a human being deserving of love and care. Consequently, the legal and spiritual frameworks must grapple with the welfare of this child, often creating agonizing dilemmas for both the parents and the religious institution. The Church, bound by its teachings on the sanctity of marriage and the sin of adultery, is simultaneously called to offer grace and uphold its doctrines. This duality can lead to immense pressure on congregational leaders, who must navigate the delicate balance between condemning the sin and ministering to the sinner, all while potentially mediating disputes that involve vast sums of money and the emotional devastation of their flock. Furthermore, the doctrines concerning divorce and remarriage within many religious traditions are often nuanced and subject to varying interpretations, especially when considering the concept of adultery as grounds for separation. While the absolute ideal is often presented as an indissoluble union, the reality of human fallibility necessitates a consideration of what happens when that ideal is irrevocably broken. For the party whose vows have been violated, the Church's teachings on forgiveness can feel like an impossible burden, particularly when the infidelity has resulted in the conception of a child. This child represents not just a broken promise, but a tangible new life that complicates any notion of simply returning to a state of grace or overlooking the transgression. The financial implications of such a situation are immense. In a marriage of this magnitude, the division of assets is not just about personal wealth. It can involve business empires, charitable foundations, and investments that have been built over decades, often with the implicit or explicit support of the religious community. The legal battles can become proxy wars for moral standing, with each party attempting to leverage their adherence to religious principles to gain an advantage in civil court. This creates a deeply uncomfortable scenario where spiritual capital is seemingly converted into financial leverage, blurring the lines between faith and finance in a way that can be profoundly disillusioning for observers and participants alike. The pressure to maintain an image of rectitude, even amidst personal turmoil, can lead to actions that appear contradictory to the very principles the community espouses. Building on this, the presence of a child born of infidelity introduces a profound ethical and pastoral challenge that transcends mere legal stipulations. This child is not a party to the original marital contract, yet their existence is inextricably linked to its dissolution. The religious community must therefore consider not only the sin of adultery, but also the ongoing responsibility for the well-being of this innocent party. This often necessitates a re-evaluation of traditional stances on divorce and remarriage, forcing leaders to consider the practical implications of their doctrines in the face of complex human circumstances. For instance, while some interpretations may strictly forbid divorce or remarriage for the unfaithful spouse, the situation can become more complicated when the innocent party seeks to move forward with their life, potentially including remarriage. How does the Church advise a congregant who has been wronged, especially when the wrong has resulted in a child that requires ongoing support and care? The legal framework, focused on property division and fault, may offer a clear path forward for the financial aspects, but it offers little solace for the spiritual and emotional turmoil. Consequently, the church finds itself in a position of needing to provide both spiritual guidance and practical support, often requiring a level of pastoral care that is tested by the sheer scale of the conflict and the public scrutiny it attracts. The financial stakes, in this context, serve to amplify the emotional and spiritual dimensions of the crisis, making the path to reconciliation or even peaceful separation incredibly arduous. Another crucial layer is the inherent tension between the concept of divine forgiveness and the legal pursuit of punitive measures or compensatory damages in a divorce. While religious teachings often emphasize mercy and the potential for redemption, civil law operates on principles of equity and accountability. In a high-stakes divorce involving infidelity and a child born from that infidelity, these two systems can come into direct conflict. The innocent spouse may feel morally compelled to forgive, yet legally entitled to significant financial compensation, or perhaps even to seek redress for the emotional distress caused by the betrayal. Conversely, the unfaithful spouse, while perhaps remorseful and seeking spiritual absolution, may face severe financial penalties in court. This dichotomy can create an environment where individuals are forced to make choices that feel spiritually compromising in order to achieve legal and financial resolution. For example, an individual might feel pressured to pursue a more aggressive legal strategy, focusing on proving fault and maximizing financial claims, even if their heart yearns for a more merciful and forgiving approach. The church's role becomes critical in helping congregants navigate this complex terrain, offering counsel that encourages a balanced perspective, one that acknowledges both the gravity of sin and the imperative of grace, without necessarily condoning the actions that led to the crisis. The existence of the child further complicates this, as any financial settlement must also consider the long-term needs of a child, who is now a direct consequence of the marital breakdown. The very fabric of religious doctrine, when confronted with a scenario as complex as a millionaire's divorce fueled by infidelity and an ensuing child, often reveals subtle but significant interpretive divergences. While the overarching principle condemning adultery remains steadfast, the practical application regarding divorce for the wronged party, especially in the context of modern financial realities and the undeniable presence of a new life, can become a point of intense theological debate. Some denominations or even individual congregations might adhere to a more rigid interpretation, viewing divorce as a last resort, if permissible at all, even for the party who has been sinned against. This perspective might emphasize the indissolubility of marriage as a sacrament, suggesting that the union, however broken, must endure in some form, or that remarriage is permissible only under very specific, narrow circumstances. In such a framework, the focus might shift towards reconciliation efforts, however unlikely, or a form of separation that avoids the legal finality of divorce, a stance that often feels untenable to the injured spouse, particularly when faced with tangible evidence of betrayal and the responsibility for a child born outside the marriage. This can lead to a profound sense of spiritual isolation for the individual seeking a path forward that aligns with both their faith and their lived experience of profound hurt. Conversely, other theological viewpoints, perhaps more pastoral in nature, acknowledge the human capacity for failure and the devastating impact of infidelity. These perspectives tend to grant more latitude to the innocent spouse, recognizing that their spiritual and emotional well-being must also be considered. Within this framework, divorce might be viewed not as a sin, but as a necessary consequence of one partner's transgression, a means of escape from a spiritually damaging and untenable situation. The presence of a child born of infidelity adds a compelling layer to this argument, as the well-being of that child and the need to provide a stable, even if unconventional family structure, can become a significant factor in determining the most appropriate pastoral response. Now consider how this applies when you face the need to establish child support and custody arrangements. The legal system, while striving for impartiality, will inevitably delve into the circumstances surrounding the child's conception, potentially bringing the details of the infidelity into sharp public or legal focus. This can be deeply distressing for all parties involved, and the religious community's stance can either exacerbate this pain or offer a balm of understanding and support. The Church's guidance in such matters can shape not only the spiritual trajectory of the individuals, but also influence their approach to these critical legal decisions, potentially impacting the child's future in profound ways. Furthermore, the concept of restoration within religious communities often takes on a more complex meaning in these high-profile cases. Beyond simply seeking forgiveness for the act of infidelity, the process of restoration for the unfaithful spouse might involve a significant period of penance, public acknowledgement of wrongdoing, and a demonstrated commitment to spiritual growth and service. This is not merely about personal repentance. It can extend to a communal expectation that the individual will actively contribute to the healing of the community and the reconciliation of those affected by their actions. For the millionaire couple, this could translate into substantial charitable giving, leadership roles in outreach programs, or a willingness to undergo extensive counseling and spiritual guidance under the watchful eyes of their peers. The financial aspect, given the substantial wealth involved, can become a tangible expression of this commitment to restoration. Large donations to the Church or the establishment of foundations dedicated to supporting families facing similar crises can be viewed as a form of atonement, a way to channel their resources towards positive outcomes that counter the destructive nature of their past actions. This approach, while potentially beneficial, can also create a perception that financial capacity can influence the severity of spiritual consequences, a notion that is deeply troubling to many. The internal dynamics of the religious institution itself are also brought into sharp relief during such scandals. Leaders are often caught between their scriptural mandates, the expectations of their congregants, and the legal realities of the secular world. The pressure to maintain the Church's reputation, especially when it is associated with wealth and influence, can be immense. This can lead to a tendency to manage the crisis behind closed doors, attempting to resolve the issues through private mediation or disciplinary processes, rather than allowing them to become fodder for public gossip or legal battles. However, when millions are at stake, and the infidelity has resulted in a child, maintaining such privacy becomes increasingly difficult. The legal proceedings themselves can become a public spectacle, forcing the Church to confront the dissonance between its teachings and the unfolding events. This can lead to internal divisions within the congregation, with some advocating for strict adherence to doctrine and others pushing for greater compassion and understanding. The role of the Church, therefore, shifts from that of a purely spiritual guide to that of a mediator, a counselor, and sometimes a reluctant arbiter in matters that have profound financial and familial implications. The Church's response, whether it leans towards strict judgment or compassionate grace, will inevitably shape the long-term spiritual and emotional landscape of the community, impacting not only the couple involved, but all those who witness their struggle. The intersection of spiritual accountability and material wealth in this situation prompts a deeper exploration of how forgiveness is practiced within the community, moving beyond mere theological pronouncements. It's not just about what the Church says regarding adultery, but how that doctrine is enacted when the transgressors are significant benefactors. For instance, when the legal proceedings necessitate the division of assets, particularly those that may have been historically tied to congregational funding or development, the Church faces a unique dilemma. Does it advocate for a settlement that might cripple the financial contributions it relies upon, in the name of strict adherence to punitive aspects of doctrine? Or does it subtly, or perhaps overtly, encourage a resolution that preserves the financial stability of the institution, even if it means a less severe financial outcome for the innocent spouse than secular law might dictate? This isn't about justifying infidelity, but about understanding the practical, often messy realities of faith communities that are deeply integrated with the financial lives of their most prominent members. The community's collective conscience grapples with whether upholding financial stewardship of the Church's resources takes precedence over exacting a stringent financial penalty on one of its members, even one who has committed adultery. The practical application of forgiveness, then, becomes intertwined with the church's own economic survival and operational capacity. Consider the nuanced approach to the child's upbringing. While the legal system will mandate child support and custody arrangements based on parental fitness and financial capacity, the church's role extends to providing a spiritual framework for this child's development. This isn't about excusing the circumstances of their birth, but about ensuring they are raised within a supportive, faith-filled environment, regardless of their parents' marital status or past transgressions. This might involve offering specialized pastoral care for children of divorced or separated parents, creating programs that address the unique challenges they face, and ensuring they feel a sense of belonging within the religious community. The church's commitment to this child becomes a tangible demonstration of its capacity for grace, moving beyond condemnation to embrace the responsibility of nurturing a new life. This focus on the child's spiritual welfare, independent of the parental conflict, highlights a proactive and compassionate application of faith principles that can offer solace and stability amidst turmoil. It's about extending the reach of divine love to every member of the community, especially those most vulnerable to the fallout of adult decisions. Moreover, the very definition of restitution within this context can evolve beyond monetary compensation. For the unfaithful spouse, true restitution might involve a profound and sustained commitment to rebuilding trust, not just with their spouse, but with the entire community. This could manifest in active participation in reconciliation ministries, mentoring programs for struggling couples, or even publicly sharing their story of failure and redemption to serve as a cautionary tale and an inspiration. The Millionaire aspect amplifies this, as their ability to fund such initiatives or dedicate significant personal time to them is considerable. The church might view these actions not as mere penance, but as a genuine pathway to restoring their standing within the faith community, demonstrating that their wealth can be a tool for profound positive impact, counterbalancing the harm caused by their actions. This perspective shifts the focus from a purely punitive financial settlement to a more holistic approach to healing and rebuilding, where tangible actions and sustained commitment are valued as highly, if not more highly, than mere financial contributions. It's about demonstrating a transformed heart through consistent, faith-driven action within the community. The internal discourse within the church leadership often becomes a microcosm of broader theological debates about grace, justice, and the nature of redemption. Leaders might grapple with questions such as, how much weight should be given to the financial contributions of a member when determining disciplinary actions or offering pastoral support? Is it possible to uphold the sanctity of marriage and condemn adultery while still providing a compassionate pathway for individuals to return to full fellowship? The presence of a child born of infidelity further complicates these deliberations, forcing leaders to consider the long-term implications for that child's spiritual development and integration into the community. This internal wrestling can lead to the development of more nuanced pastoral guidelines and disciplinary procedures, reflecting a growing understanding of how to apply ancient doctrines to the complex realities of modern life, especially within affluent religious circles. The Church's capacity to adapt and offer meaningful guidance in such challenging circumstances is a testament to its living faith, demonstrating a commitment to both truth and mercy. The question of how the innocent spouse navigates the practicalities of rebuilding their life, especially when confronted with the financial entanglement of a millionaire's divorce, introduces a unique set of challenges that go beyond the immediate emotional fallout. Consider the legal framework surrounding marital property division. In many jurisdictions, assets acquired during the marriage are considered jointly owned, regardless of who earned them. This means that even if the infidelity occurred on one spouse's part, the financial gains accrued during the marriage are often subject to equitable distribution. For the wronged spouse, this can feel like a profound injustice, to not only endure betrayal, but also to potentially see a significant portion of the wealth they helped build, or at least benefited from, allocated to the person who violated their vows. The Church's counsel in such situations often involves encouraging a perspective that distinguishes between spiritual forgiveness and legal entitlement, While the spiritual imperative might be to release bitterness and embrace reconciliation, the legal reality demands a fair, albeit sometimes painful, division of assets. This often requires a delicate balance, where the church guides congregants to pursue their legal rights with integrity and a clear conscience, rather than with vengeful intent. It's about understanding that the legal system operates on different principles than divine grace, and navigating both requires wisdom and discernment. Furthermore, the long-term financial implications for the innocent spouse, particularly if they have been financially dependent or have sacrificed career opportunities to support the marriage and family, are substantial. The church's role here can extend to practical support networks, connecting individuals with financial advisors who understand the unique challenges of navigating divorce settlements, or providing resources for retraining and career development. The existence of a child born from the infidelity adds another layer of complexity to financial planning. Ensuring the child's future security through education funds, inheritance planning, and appropriate child support becomes a paramount concern. The church, in its pastoral capacity, can help the innocent spouse focus on these forward-looking aspects, encouraging them to build a secure future for themselves and their child, rather than remaining solely focused on the past betrayal. This proactive approach, grounded in faith and practical wisdom, empowers the innocent spouse to move from a position of victimhood to one of agency and resilience, demonstrating that even in the wake of profound loss, a foundation for a stable and prosperous future can be laid. The concept of new beginnings, for the innocent spouse, especially when a child is involved, often requires a recalibrating of personal and financial goals. This might involve re-entering the workforce, pursuing advanced education, or even starting a new business. The church community, particularly in affluent circles, can provide invaluable networks and mentorship opportunities to facilitate these transitions. Consider the scenario where the innocent spouse, having been the primary caregiver, now needs to establish financial independence. The church might offer access to professional contacts, investment advice, or even seed funding for entrepreneurial ventures, all framed within a context of spiritual support and encouragement. This isn't about condoning the infidelity, but about actively participating in the restoration and empowerment of the wronged individual. The financial resources available within such a community can be leveraged not just for legal battles, but for constructive rebuilding, helping the innocent spouse to not only recover, but to thrive, thereby demonstrating the practical outworking of faith in the face of adversity. This focus on future prosperity and stability, for both the innocent spouse and the child, underscores a holistic approach to healing that encompasses spiritual, emotional, and material well-being. The spiritual implications of financial disparity within a religious community, particularly when a scandal of infidelity and an ensuing child emerge, present a unique challenge to the application of church discipline and restorative justice. Often, in affluent congregations, the weight of financial contribution can inadvertently, or sometimes overtly, influence the perceived severity of a member's transgressions and the subsequent path to reconciliation. When a congregant involved in such a high-profile divorce is also a significant donor or holds a position of influence due to their wealth, the church's leadership may find themselves navigating a complex ethical tightrope. The doctrine of forgiveness, while universally preached, can be subtly reshaped by the practical realities of institutional funding. This doesn't necessarily imply a deliberate corruption of principles, but rather a human tendency to prioritize the stability and operational capacity of the church, which is often directly linked to the financial generosity of its prominent members. Consequently, the process of restoration might be framed in ways that emphasize continued financial support as a tangible demonstration of repentance and commitment to the community, a notion that can feel transactional and deeply unsettling to those who believe in a more purely spiritual form of atonement. Furthermore, the very concept of restitution within this context can extend beyond mere monetary compensation or even charitable giving. For the unfaithful spouse, true restitution might involve a profound and sustained commitment to rebuilding trust, not just with their spouse, but with the entire community. This could manifest in active participation in reconciliation ministries, mentoring programs for struggling couples, or even publicly sharing their story of failure and redemption to serve as a cautionary tale and an inspiration. The millionaire aspect amplifies this, as their ability to fund such initiatives or dedicate significant personal time to them is considerable. The church might view these actions not as mere penance, but as a genuine pathway to restoring their standing within the faith community, demonstrating that their wealth can be a tool for profound positive impact, counterbalancing the harm caused by their actions. This perspective shifts the focus from a purely punitive financial settlement to a more holistic approach to healing and rebuilding, where tangible actions and sustained commitment are valued as highly, if not more highly, than mere financial contributions. It's about demonstrating a transformed heart through consistent, faith-driven action within the community. The internal discourse within the church leadership often becomes a microcosm of broader theological debates about grace, justice, and the nature of redemption. Leaders might grapple with questions such as, how much weight should be given to the financial contributions of a member when determining disciplinary actions or offering pastoral support? Is it possible to uphold the sanctity of marriage and condemn adultery while still providing a compassionate pathway for individuals to return to full fellowship? The presence of a child born of infidelity further complicates these deliberations, forcing leaders to consider the long-term implications for that child's spiritual development and integration into the community. This internal wrestling can lead to the development of more nuanced pastoral guidelines and disciplinary procedures, reflecting a growing understanding of how to apply ancient doctrines to the complex realities of modern life, especially within affluent religious circles. The Church's capacity to adapt and offer meaningful guidance in such challenging circumstances is a testament to its living faith, demonstrating a commitment to both truth and mercy. This adaptive capacity is crucial for maintaining relevance and offering genuine spiritual support in an ever-evolving world, particularly when faced with the intersection of deeply personal failings and significant material influence. The challenge of integrating the child born of infidelity into the fabric of a religious community, especially one accustomed to a certain social order, necessitates a profound reevaluation of belonging and acceptance. It's not merely about legal recognition or financial provision. It's about the child's spiritual identity and their right to feel fully embraced by the faith community, irrespective of the circumstances of their conception. Consider how a congregation might actively create spaces and programs that are intentionally inclusive of children from diverse family structures. This could involve revising lesson plans to reflect a broader understanding of family, ensuring that imagery and narratives used in religious education are not exclusively focused on the traditional two-parent, heterosexual model. Furthermore, the community might establish mentorship initiatives that pair children from single-parent or blended families with stable, faith-filled adult role models from within the congregation. This provides a crucial support system, offering guidance and a sense of belonging that transcends the immediate family unit. The Church's proactive approach here demonstrates a commitment to nurturing every child's spiritual growth, signaling that their worth is not diminished by their parents' marital history. It's about fostering an environment where the child can develop a secure sense of self within their faith, unburdened by the stigma that might otherwise attach to their origins. Beyond the child's direct integration, the community's response to the innocent spouse's journey toward self-reliance and renewed purpose is equally critical. When faced with rebuilding a life after such a profound betrayal, especially within a context where financial security was intrinsically linked to the marital union, the path forward can seem daunting. Now consider how the Church can facilitate this rebuilding process, not just through emotional support, but through tangible opportunities for personal and professional growth. This might involve organizing workshops focused on financial literacy, career counseling, or entrepreneurial skill development, tailored to the specific needs of individuals navigating post-divorce life. For instance, A congregation with a strong network of professionals in various industries could proactively connect the innocent spouse with mentors or potential employers, helping them re-establish their financial independence and sense of agency. The emphasis here is on empowering the individual to create a stable and fulfilling future, demonstrating that the community's commitment extends beyond the immediate crisis to encompass long-term well-being. It's about equipping them with the tools and resources necessary to not only recover, but to thrive, thereby embodying the principles of hope and resilience that are central to their faith. Moreover, the broader community's role in fostering reconciliation, particularly when it involves the unfaithful spouse's journey toward demonstrating genuine remorse and commitment, requires a nuanced understanding of grace in action. It's not simply about offering a perfunctory apology, but about tangible, sustained efforts to repair the harm caused. For instance, the unfaithful spouse might be encouraged to engage in acts of service that directly benefit families facing similar marital challenges, perhaps by volunteering in counseling services or supporting initiatives aimed at strengthening marriages within the community. Conversely, the community could facilitate structured opportunities for dialogue and understanding between the estranged parties, not necessarily for the purpose of immediate reconciliation, but to foster a climate of mutual respect and to allow for the airing of grievances in a safe, mediated environment. This approach acknowledges the complexity of human relationships and the often protracted nature of healing, recognizing that true reconciliation is a process, not an event. It underscores the Church's role as a facilitator of healing, guiding individuals through the arduous but ultimately rewarding journey of confronting their mistakes and embracing a renewed sense of purpose and belonging. This deliberate, community-supported pathway toward redemption offers a powerful counter-narrative to the destructive forces of betrayal and loss. The spiritual accountability of the unfaithful spouse, especially within a wealthy religious community, often manifests in a unique form of public penance and service, transcending mere private repentance. Consider how such individuals, once exposed, might be called upon not just to apologize, but to actively demonstrate a transformed life through tangible contributions that benefit the very community they may have fractured. This could involve spearheading initiatives aimed at strengthening marriages, perhaps by funding and leading premarital counseling programs or establishing support groups for couples facing marital distress. The wealth they possess becomes a tool for this restorative justice, enabling them to underwrite these programs, provide resources, and dedicate significant personal time. The Church, in turn, can leverage these contributions not as a form of absolution, but as a visible testament to a genuine commitment to spiritual growth and a desire to mend the spiritual and social fabric. This approach moves beyond a simple condemnation of the sin to a more holistic model of healing, where the offender actively participates in the repair process, thereby regaining trust and demonstrating a renewed spiritual orientation. Furthermore, the integration of the child born from infidelity into the broader religious community presents a distinct set of pastoral challenges and opportunities. It is not enough to simply ensure the child's material needs are met. The community must actively foster an environment where the child feels fully accepted and spiritually nurtured, irrespective of the circumstances of their birth. This might involve creating specialized ministries or small groups specifically designed to support children from non-traditional family structures, offering them a sense of belonging and a safe space to process any potential stigma. Imagine a scenario where the Church organizes intergenerational mentorship programs, pairing children from divorced or blended families with mature, faith-filled adults from the congregation who can offer guidance, encouragement, and a consistent spiritual anchor. This proactive approach ensures that the child's spiritual development is prioritized, fostering resilience and a strong sense of identity within the community, thereby counteracting any negative associations with their origins. The innocent spouse's path toward rebuilding their life, particularly when financial security was deeply intertwined with the marital union, often requires more than just emotional fortitude. It demands practical empowerment. Now, consider how the church community can facilitate this reconstruction through targeted support networks and skill-building opportunities. This could manifest as workshops focused on financial planning for single individuals, career counseling services designed to help re-enter the workforce or pivot to new professional paths, or even entrepreneurial mentorship programs that empower individuals to establish their own ventures. For example, a congregation with a robust network of professionals might actively connect the innocent spouse with mentors in their field of interest or provide access to seed funding for business ideas, all framed within a context of spiritual encouragement and community backing. This demonstrates a commitment to the individual's long-term well-being, enabling them to transition from a position of dependence to one of self-sufficiency and renewed purpose, thereby embodying the faith's tenets of hope and resilience in the face of adversity. The reconciliation process, particularly for the unfaithful spouse, often extends beyond personal repentance to a demonstrable commitment to repairing the harm caused within the community. This might involve actively participating in initiatives that strengthen family bonds or offering support to other couples navigating marital difficulties. Envision the unfaithful spouse, perhaps with their considerable financial resources, funding and leading programs designed to offer counseling and guidance to couples on the brink of separation, thereby transforming their personal failure into a catalyst for communal healing. This active engagement signifies a deeper level of accountability, demonstrating a genuine desire to contribute positively to the spiritual health of the congregation. It's about channeling their past mistakes into future service, thereby rebuilding trust and demonstrating a profound shift in their spiritual orientation and commitment to the community's well-being. Reflecting on this journey so far, we've witnessed the intricate dance between deeply held spiritual tenets and the often unforeseen complexities of human relationships, particularly when amplified by significant material influence. The exploration has illuminated how foundational beliefs, when tested by profound personal failings, can reveal both the resilience and the adaptability of faith communities. We've seen how the very pronouncements intended to offer guidance can become focal points of intense introspection and, at times, profound division, especially when the stark realities of infidelity and its undeniable consequences, such as the presence of a child born outside the marital covenant, enter the public sphere. The threads of doctrine, legal obligation, and the human imperative for both justice and mercy have been woven together, creating a tapestry that is as rich as it is challenging. This convergence of disparate elements forces a reconsideration of how principles are applied in practice, moving from abstract ideals to the tangible, often messy lived experiences of individuals within a collective spiritual framework. Conceptualizing this confluence, imagine a vast, intricate network of rivers, each representing a distinct principle or aspect of the human condition we've touched upon: faith, law, love, betrayal, wealth, and responsibility. For a significant period, these rivers may have flowed in relative parallel, their currents distinct yet predictable. However, the events we've considered have acted as a powerful seismic shift, causing these once separate channels to converge, their waters now mingling, creating eddies and undertows that challenge the established flow. This meeting point, this dynamic confluence, necessitates a new understanding of the landscape, a recognition that the currents are now interconnected, their movements influencing one another in ways that are both dynamic and transformative. As we pivot towards the final reflection, it is this emergent understanding of interconnectedness, this recognition of how these seemingly disparate forces now shape a unified, albeit complex terrain, that guides our gaze toward what lies ahead. In light of these insights, the path forward becomes clearer, not in terms of providing simplistic answers, but in illuminating the profound questions that arise when the sacred and the secular, the spiritual and the material, collide with such force. The journey has underscored that navigating such intersections requires a profound degree of discernment, a willingness to hold seemingly opposing truths in tension, and a commitment to seeking wisdom that transcends easy categorization. As we move towards our concluding thoughts, we are left with a resonant understanding that the true measure of a community, and indeed of our own spiritual maturity, lies not in the absence of challenges, but in the grace, wisdom, and courage with which we navigate them. This convergence compels us to look beyond the immediate storm and toward the horizon, where a deeper understanding of connection, resilience, and enduring truth may await. The echoes of this unfolding drama, steeped in both spiritual conviction and immense earthly wealth, ultimately converge on a single, profound truth: the enduring human capacity to grapple with our deepest flaws, not in isolation, but within the intricate tapestry of community. What began as a scandal, a public unraveling of vows and reputations, has, through its very intensity, illuminated the complex interplay between divine principles and mortal frailty. It has laid bare the often uncomfortable reality that faith, when truly tested, is not a shield against imperfection, but a crucible in which it is confronted, examined, and, with immense effort, transformed. The presence of a child, a tangible symbol of a broken covenant, serves not as an endpoint, but as a catalyst, demanding a response that transcends mere judgment and calls for a deeper, more encompassing form of grace. This child, innocent of the transgressions that surround them, becomes a living testament to the imperative of extending compassion, even when faced with the stark evidence of infidelity. In the wake of such revelations, the true work of the spiritual community begins. It is a work that demands more than adherence to dogma. It calls for the courageous application of lived faith. This means fostering environments where accountability is met with genuine opportunities for restoration, where the pursuit of justice is tempered by the profound imperative of mercy, and where material wealth, rather than becoming a barrier to spiritual growth, is harnessed as a tool for healing and rebuilding. The lessons gleaned from this high-stakes entanglement are not confined to the opulent boardrooms or hushed sanctuaries where they initially unfolded. They resonate outward, offering a universal mirror to our own struggles with integrity, forgiveness, and the enduring power of connection. The path forward is not one of simple resolution, but of ongoing, conscious engagement with the complexities of the human heart, guided by the unwavering light of enduring spiritual values. The true practice begins now, in the quiet moments of personal reflection, in the bold conversations that seek understanding over condemnation, and in the sustained actions that embody the grace we aspire to. It is in this deliberate, ongoing commitment to weaving compassion into the fabric of our lives, even when faced with the starkest of human failings, that we find the deepest meaning and the most profound sense of belonging. The journey through this story reminds us that faith is not merely a set of beliefs, but a dynamic, living force that calls us to embrace the entirety of the human experience, with all its imperfections, and to rise together toward a more hopeful and integrated future.